NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Zainab Ismail.
Well, thank you so much for making the time to join us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is Flora Atieno. Now, have there been lives lost to hunger-related causes occasioned by the current drought that seems to have 13 counties in the country in its grip?
If you are a member of the government of Kenya, there have been no deaths. But if you are Kenyan in the affected counties, people have indeed died of hunger.
And several families whose kin starved to death in Tiaty, Baringo County due to the long dry spell experienced in the area have come out to show that the government is indeed lying.
Hundreds of people in Baringo South, Baringo North and Tiaty sub-counties are staring death in the face. A prolonged dry spell has dried up the seasonal streams and led to crop failure. Several people have lost their lives. However, the government appears to have decided to see nor hear none of it, maintaining that no one has died. A spot check by NTV in several villages in the region revealed fresh graves of people who had lost their lives due to the biting drought that has led to acute food shortage and water in the arid area. At Cheroloyo village in Layomorok ward, we find a fresh grave of 58-year-old Joseph Kipto, who succumbed to hunger-related illness on Sunday. His grave, heaped with stones and shrubs some 50 meters away from the compound, was still fresh.
Sisi ameshinda siku tatu bila kukula chochote. Sikajaribu kuamsha mzee, akashindwa kuamka.
Huyo ndugu yangu ameaga, alikuwa anakaa na huyu mama.
Also staring at starvation in the face is a 90-year-old grandmother who was staying with the deceased man, a sole provider. She is very weak and can barely walk. In this village are frail faces of children, the elderly and expectant mothers who are hardest hit by the calamity. In another village, we found another fresh grave. Cheparenga Lochoki, who allegedly died of hunger 3 weeks ago, lies here.
Alisimika usiku. Na siku hiyo hatukuwa na chakula yoyote. Tulilala ja karibu siku mbili. Kupatia maji yeye alikaa madakika tu akaisha.
500 meters from the homestead, 65-year-old Paul Kiplal, another victim of hunger, died at the beginning of this month after starving for several days.
Hata hapa wenzangu jirani yangu aliaga tena kwa njaa. Naitwa Paul Kiplal. Nyuma yangu hapa. Mwenzangu chusi tena akaaka hapa Jirelio village.
In Baraketua village, Baringo North, a 75-year-old man's lifeless body was discovered in this hut on Wednesday. Neighbors claim the ailing old man lived alone and it is suspected hunger killed him as the entire place is ravaged by drought. The old man was a beneficiary of the Inua Jamii government program, had not received the cash for the elderly for close to 6 months. On Monday, the government denied reports of death from hunger. Despite state denials, villagers are adamant that relatives have died.
I want to tell the country and tell you that nobody has died. We are working round the clock to make sure that nobody dies as a result of hunger.
Ni uchungu kusikia watu amekufa juu ya njaa. Na mnakataa kusaidia.
Hatujui sasa serikali iko wapi. Na tulipika hawa kura hata MP wakuje watu wameisha. Sasa tukiisha nani atapika hawa kura?
Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalo was in the county and pledged that relief food was on the way. But according to locals, relief food promised by the national government to feed the population in the county was yet to reach some areas. Even as the blame game on who should be held responsible for the deaths continues, for residents of Baringo, their pressing need is food and water to avert more deaths. Rozongoi, NTV.
Amidst the denial by the government and confirmation from the people affected, one more person, a woman in her 50s, has died of hunger and starvation in Turkana County, bringing the number of those who have died from hunger in Turkana to 3.
And according to her family members in Kibish sub-county, The woman succumbed to starvation after going for 10 days without nothing to eat.
Lois Wangoi has been reporting from that area and still there and will be telling us of a story of hunger and starvation. And where, of course, from Kibish sub-county, in the year 2013, the country mobilized to initiate sustainable food programs in Turkana County under the Kenya for Kenyans initiative. Speaking of which, there is another one that is being called upon by the Red Cross, but we'll be getting to that in a bit.
And here are the graves of Turkana. Has anyone starved to death in this country in recent days? Well, the government says no, but aid agencies say yes.
But death is not an abstract idea. It isn't something you gloss over or are not sure about. If it happens, it is there for anyone to see.
And so the Daily Nation has been investigating this, seeking the truth in the middle of all the myth-making and uncertainty.
Most recently, a woman died of hunger in a remote village of Turkana. This story will be coming to you by Lois Wangoi. Well, this morning, you will be getting some words of confirmation. There was pebbles on her fresh grave, still sparkling under the sunlight.
And neighbors told us she wasn't the first to go that way, and certainly not the last. Read her full story in the Daily Nation tomorrow.
As mentioned earlier, we will be getting that full story also from our reporter Lois Wangoi, who is there on the ground to confirm the word from the people on the ground and, of course, go against the very embarrassing denials by the government. The Ministry of Interior and Kenya Red Cross are on the spot for failing to effectively account for the 1 billion shillings contingency fund drawn in 2018.
Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho and Kenya Red Cross Secretary General Abbas Gulet had a hard time convincing members of the National Assembly Budget Committee how part of the amount has so far been spent.
And to be Seth Olale with the details.
Kenya Red Cross is...
The committee chaired by Kikuyu Member of Parliament Kimani Ichung'wah repeatedly faulted the Ministry of Interior and the Kenya Red Cross for failing to produce a detailed account showing how the 1 billion shillings contingency fund was utilized in line with the Public Finance Management Act regulations. Kenya Red Cross, which has received a backlash on social media by a section of Kenyans after it launched a funds drive in regards to the ongoing drought, was put on the spot for failing to fully account for its taxpayers-funded programs in line with Section 21 to 23, Clause 50 of the PFM Act and regulations.
So all the houses, all the completed 4,073 today, plus the 1,643 to be done or to be completed, they're all serialized, they're all numbered on what we call Red Rose. Is IT-based system that here at a press of a button, we could have shown you all the houses, whether in Taita Taveta, whether it's in Turkana or in Samburu, wherever, we have those details at just a press of a button.
You have given us generalities, in my view, and this does not pass out as accountability. We, as a budget, as a committee, may, if it is not practical for you to present us with more detailed analysis, report on this expenditure, we will probably ask the Auditor General to do it on our behalf. Because to me, I think you've just given us a talk. It is just a presentation.
Speaking separately during the launch of the 2019 funds drive, Kenya Red Cross Secretary General Abbas Gulet defended his organization's expenditure dating back to the Kenyans for Kenya initiative meant for famine victims in 2011.
I don't control Mother Nature to say when water should be there or shouldn't be there, but it shows under Kenyans for Kenya, this was one project that was undertaken and is still alive and going and well and kicking.
Because you seem to have contravened all provisions in the PFM Act in relation to how you utilize the PFM Act. And what you have really done this morning, you have now shifted accountability, as the leader of minority said, from the Ministry of Interior to the Kenya Red Cross, which I do not know, maybe Mr. Abbas Gulet will tell us whether it has now become a government agency,
The Budget Committee also expressed dissatisfaction, stating that the 1 billion shillings contingency fund that was drawn in 2018 ought to have been accounted for in 2 months, and that the Interior Ministry and Kenya Red Cross only presented generalities on the expenditure of the fund. Seth Olale, NTV.
And the Kenya Red Cross is appealing once again for aid for over 1 million people in about 17 counties affected by the drought.
The agency is seeking more than 824 million shillings that will help those badly in need through cash transfers, food and water distribution and livelihood support.
The Red Cross singled out Tiaty in Baringo County, Loyangalani in Turkana County as among the most affected areas.
As appeal goes out, the Nation Media Group has also joined the campaign to supplement ongoing efforts.
We have to come back to you once again and go back to ordinary Kenyans to ask them to help, be their brothers and sisters keepers, but because the needs are there.
One of our commitments is to ensure that we will give all our platforms to be able to drive this up.
We'll be back on this story on the drought effects, especially in Turkana, with that story from Lois Wangoi in a bit. But on to other developments that have left many baffled. Autopsy reports on lawyer Asa Nyakundi's slain son Joseph appeared to contradict an earlier statement from the father that he accidentally discharged his weapon while securing it.
The report shows that Joseph may have been shot from outside the car owing to the angle the bullet entered his chest, piercing his heart, leading to instant death. Kanmi Jungu reports.
The report indicates that the cause of death was chest injuries and hemorrhage due to gunshot from a low-velocity firearm. It's, however, the details of the shooting that will now point investigators to the shooter or exonerate the father. The report indicates that the shot projection from the chest exiting at the back suggested that whoever shot him was standing outside the rear right back door of the motor vehicle registration number KCE 573B, a Toyota Axio, which belongs to the deceased father. However, this appears to be the lead investigator's opinion based on autopsy report findings. The scene of crime detectives had indicated that they found a single spent cartridge under the mat below the front passenger side chair and that the bullet had exited into the car's rear end, indicating the deceased was shot from the front side of the car. In his earlier statement, the father had indicated that they were driving from church to his home in Muthaiga. He, however, accidentally shot his son when he was moving his gun to secure it in the holster. Lawyer Nyakundi also indicated that after the accidental shooting, he rushed his son to the hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The autopsy was led by Chief Government Pathologist Dr. Johansen Oduor. Investigations continue on Friday when ballistic experts and homicide detectives will analyze the said motor vehicle further before making a final report. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
All right, let's just go back to that story by Rose Wangoi, where one more person, a woman in her 50s, has died of hunger and starvation in Turkana County, bringing the number of those who have died from hunger in Turkana to 3.
According to family members in Kibish sub-county, the woman succumbed to starvation after going for 10 days with nothing to eat.
Lois Wangoi tells the story of hunger and starvation from Kibish sub-county, where in the year 2013, the country mobilized to initiate sustainable food programs in Turkana County under the Kenya for Kenyans initiative.
The late Eribo Amalenga's grave is still fresh, gathering from the neatly arranged stones to mark her burial point. There are no flowers here, but this fresh bunch of leaves serves the purpose of her community's farewell gesture to her. They claim she starved to death. Her daughter smears her face with white swell. It is part of tradition of mourning a loved one. She tells us that she had traveled for about 10 days in search of food and water. She returned yesterday just before dawn and made her very weak mother Martha some porridge. Her mom was too weak to feed and she had about 5 spoons before retiring to bed. By morning, she was dead. Yet, the government, despite all this proof, remains adamant that no one has died, oblivious to the reality of the very people who put it in power.
Onye najua ni ile Waturkana ambaye nye tunakaa na sisi wenye napitanga kienda kibichi. Ndio natujua sisi. Na najua ile kitu yenye sisi tunafanya kwa wajili wabande ya njaa.
About 500 meters is an irrigation project wasting away. Remember the severe drought in 2013 that saw Kenyans come together under the umbrella Kenya for Kenyans? Well, $500 million shillings were raised, half of which was invested here. Today, the project is a shell, and Mama Eribo Amalenga died hungry just next to this dead multi-million project. Residents say the government and the Kenya Red Cross left the project to them, yet they lack the know-how of running and maintaining such infrastructure.
Alafu tunaomba wa Kenya wale wafadhili wenye walituletea hizi machamba Red Cross hii, bado tunahitaji mradi yao ili tusaidike nayo. Hata kama tumeharibu ile, haikuwa kupenda kwetu.
Ile cheda iko hapa ni tu peke yake. Cheda angalau hii maji pamu ile aliletwa na Red Cross ile haribika kidogo. Ile pamu kubwa hii iliharibika.
When this particular project, Kenya for Kenyans, was up and running, it was such a reprieve for the residents of Kibish sub-county. They were able to fend for themselves. Years later, the drought is back and the project is not running. Now, the residents are facing hunger.
Lois Wango's report there, we apologize for the lack of lip sync there. But we have, of course, to give you the story from the ground. And the facts remain the same. The people are dying. The government, for some reason, is denying this.
Well, the Supreme Court Judge Jackton Ojwang has come out to fight the decision by the Judicial Service Commission to subject him to a tribunal to probe his conduct.
In a letter to the JSC, Justice Ojwang says the commission did not give him a chance to defend himself, which is against the provisions of the Constitution on fair hearing.
And TV's Silas Apollo with the details of what promises to be a protracted legal battle between the judge and his employer.
In a letter drafted by his lawyers and addressed to the Judicial Service Commission, Supreme Court Judge Jackton Ojwang says the Commission acted outside the provisions of the Constitution that gives one a right of reply when it recommended that the President sets up a tribunal to investigate him. Justice Ojwang cites Article 47 and 35 of the Constitution as part of his defense against the Commission. Article 47 reads, and I quote, "If a right or fundamental freedom of a person has been or is likely to be adversely affected by administrative action, the person has a right to be given written reasons for the action." Ojwang argues that the Commission, contrary to the provisions of the said article, recommended that he be subjected to a tribunal, a decision he says is unconstitutional. But the JSC, while giving its recommendations yesterday, said the judge failed to honor summons to appear and answer to the allegations filed against him and instead sent his lawyer. The Commission insisted that Ojwang must appear in person to respond to the charges, a request that the judge opposed. JSC said that the petition against Justice Ojwang indicate instances that may constitute misconduct, impropriety, conflict of interest, and a breach of the law guiding the conduct of judges and magistrates. Justice Ojwang has been accused of, among other things, using his position to influence a decision in a case of the Sugar Belt, and in which he was rewarded with the construction of a road leading to his rural home in Migori County by Governor Okoth Obado. The judge has, however, defended himself and distanced himself from the allegations. And in his letter today, the judge now wants the JSC to serve him with, among other things, a report of the JSC committee that had the said complaint against him, copies of the transcripts of the proceedings, transcripts of the JSC sitting that recommended the formation of a tribunal, and reasons given by the JSC to warrant the formation of a tribunal to investigate the allegations leveled against him. The petition filed against Justice Ojwang is one of the many filed against judges of the Supreme Court, led by its president, David Maraga, all who face accusations of abuse of office and violation.
To an ongoing investigation, the main suspect in the 2 billion shilling fake currency syndicate unearthed at Barclays Bank Queensway branch, Dr. Eric Adede, will remain in police custody for 5 more days.
Adede, alongside 3 other suspects, that is Ahmed Shah, Elizabeth Mudhoni and Irene Wairimu, will remain in custody pending investigations after they were denied bail. Mel Miendo reports.
Dr. Eric Adede, Ahmed Shah, Elizabeth Mudhoni and Irene Wairimu appeared before presiding magistrate Zainab Abdul at the Milimani Law Courts, where their lawyers sought bail. The lawyers argued that their clients should be freed while investigations continue into the case involving $20 million reported to be fake. The cash was found in a safe deposit box by detectives on Tuesday at the Barclays Bank Queensway branch. The box belonged to the main suspect, Eric Adede, who was on Wednesday taken back to the bank to open a second deposit box registered to him. According to the police, investigations will focus on establishing the authenticity of the currency notes, confirm the identity of the 3 other suspects, Ahmed Shah, Elizabeth Mudhoni and Irene Wairimu, as they did not have any identification documents. The investigating team will also test the minerals in their custody, obtain and review CCTV footage from the bank.
I will allow the application but limit the custodial period to 5 days. This is a matter of great public interest as the money involved is a huge sum.
The second suspect, Ahmed Shah, who posed as an international investor, sought medical attention through his lawyers. Investigating officers have until the 26th of March to prefer charges against the 4 suspects in the Barclays Bank cash fraud. Until then, the 4 will be held at the Kileleshwa police station. Mel Miendo, NTV, at the Milimani.
From this development, of course, the bank has put in some new measures, and we'll be hearing that after the break. Something else to look forward to, a story that is actually going to get the attention of the authorities and you as well. They came to Kenya over a decade ago, allegedly on a charity mission, registered over 80 orphans and vulnerable children to a family home in Bomet County.
Now, for the young ones, nothing could compare to the joy of enjoying a family setup. Only it wasn't what it looked like.
They were sexually exploited and their rights abused. This Sunday, NTV Investigates Praying Missionaries with Edmund Nyabola will be airing.
All right, and on that note, of course...
2008, I could hear children crying loudly in pain.
How many times were you sexually abused by Mr. Dow?
Like 3 times.
It was a sexual abuse on his own daughter.
And they told me to close my eyes and they told us to put our arms like this. Then they shoot something fast here.
Children are not being taken to the hospital.
James was put into a box and then just put in the ground.
The department did not do a proper background check.
For me, I don't know about what you are talking about.
Sickening. The full story on Sunday at 7 and 9 o'clock. Praying Missionaries by Edmund Nyabola.
You do not want to miss that. Let's take a short break. We'll be back with much more. safety deposit boxes has given rise to a number of security concerns as NTV's Olive Barrows explores.
The mystery surrounding the contents of safe deposit boxes has inspired many a movie plot in its time. The boxes are typically rented for safekeeping of gold, an emergency stash of cash, precious stones, expensive works of art and sensitive documents. But the very secrecy that makes the boxes appealing inevitably attracts a bad element, as was laid bare on Tuesday when counterfeit currency amounting to 2 billion shillings in US dollars was recovered from the Barclays Bank Queensway branch, followed by fake gold in a second deposit box. The recovery, a revelation as to just how pervasive the money laundering business has become, infiltrating even the hallowed banking institution, and which, given the national security threat that terrorism poses, cannot be taken for granted. The corrupt, another threat to our national security, it's suspected could also use the boxes to ferret away their ill-gotten wealth, safe from the scrutiny bank deposits may be subjected to, raising a number of pertinent questions. 1. What regulations govern the hiring out of safe deposit boxes or lockers? And 2. Given that the contents of the safety deposit boxes are known only to the client, is it time to enforce stricter measures in light of security concerns around money laundering and terrorism? 3. Would greater scrutiny of the contents of safe deposit boxes defeat their purpose? In other words, how do you weigh the right to privacy against national security concerns? 4. How have other jurisdictions addressed these competing interests? And 5. In handing over a second safe deposit box belonging to one of the suspects in the counterfeit currency probe, without being compelled to do so by way of a court order to the best of our knowledge, did Barclays Bank violate their expectation of privacy? As far as the regulations governing the use of safe deposit boxes is concerned, we only came across a brief mention in the Central Bank of Kenya's prudential guidelines. It simply states safe deposit lockers where provided should be housed in a separate strong room. Customers should be provided with sufficient and suitable verification space. And in our inquiries to those in the banking sector, we were informed that their procedures are informed by international best practice. The practice being that none other than the owner of the box should be privy to its contents, but to release the bank from liability, they are required to sign an indemnity form, stipulating that the bank accepts no responsibility for loss or damage to the items. The contents are not insured by the bank. The bank does not accept for safekeeping firearms, ammunitions, other explosives and flammable material. The client also undertakes to not use the facility to house proceeds of crime and indemnifies the bank from any damages the bank may incur as a result of the breach of these terms. And should the depositor agree to these terms, they have the option of renting out a small, medium or large box. The small box attracting a rental fee of about 2,000 shillings, a medium one available for approximately 3,500 shillings and a large one at about 6,000 shillings a year. Amounts several banks in the United Kingdom assess to not be worth the trouble, including Barclays and cooperative banks, which shut down their service. And given the events leading up to Barclays Kenya's decision not to take on any new safe deposit box customers, the safety deposit box here could be on its way out too. Olive Barrows, NTV.
From those concerns of the Barclays Barclays Bank CEO, that is Jeremy Awori, to the sleepless nights, or at least what's given the sleepless nights to the country's deputy CEO. The deputy president's camp has been uneasy of late. So uneasy is the DP with the anti-graft war that he has declared it is targeting him.
NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Mureithi examines why the DP believes the war on graft is a threat to his political career.
Deputy President William Ruto has now come out clearly, stating the anti-graft war is right at his doorstep.
There have been attempts to profile the political war waged against William Ruto to be the war on corruption.
Those in the DP's camp have been so uneasy, resorting to attacking institutions tasked with combating graft, especially the Director of Criminal Investigations. At the Interprofessional Summit in Mombasa Wednesday, Ruto even declared the fight against graft had lost integrity. Politicians allied to the DP have been vocal, making it clear that the real target in the war on corruption is the DP himself.
Wakati William Ruto alikuwa na support Raila Odinga, hakukuwa mwizi. Wakati alikuja akasupport Uhuru Kenyatta, hakukuwa mwizi. Saa hii vile anataka imefika wakati yake, mnasema ni mwizi. Tutakutana na nyinyi na Mungu yuko.
The DCI is investigating the dam scandal, keen on finding out how money released as down payment was spent. This has irked the DP, who believes this is a war against him. His interest in the matter and reactions has caused a political storm.
I am the deputy CEO of a company called Kenya. And so, if I don't know what is going on in this company, then I shouldn't be in any position in that company.
Opposition leader and President Uhuru Kenyatta's newfound friend Raila Odinga has been in the forefront, using every opportunity to attack the DP.
If you are talking about the theft of the dams, and figures are there, don't come and tell us that it was not 20 billion, it was only 7. Let the investigating authorities complete the investigations. Who are you to tell us? How did you know? You are the thief who is trying to show us that, oh, the other thief running away.
The DP allies have even questioned President Kenyatta's commitment to the MOU that created the Jubilee Alliance.
Kama uko na maneno, wacha kutumia serikali, wacha kutumia mkono ya yorekani. Jitokeze na ushike microphone kama mimi na useme hautaki William Ruto tena, sisi tutasikia na tutajua ni nini la kufuata.
Tangu tumalize campaign, sisi tumeona rais, umepatana na viongozi kutoka Nyanza, hiyo ni vizuri. Umepatana na viongozi wa Wakisii, hiyo ni vizuri. Tumeona viongozi kutoka Ukambani na Coast, hiyo ni vizuri. Swali ambaye tunauliza siku ya leo, utaonana lini na viongozi kutoka jamii ya Kalenjin wakuambie shida na mambo ambaye hawa wananchi wanafeel?
The admission by the Deputy President that the war on corruption could be targeting him is just one of the many steps that could be taken by him and his allies as they prepare to leave the Jubilee fold and have the 2022 campaigns on their own. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV.
All right, and away from politics, Kevin Obiya, who was caught on CCTV cameras threatening a security guard with a gun in Nairobi's Kileleshwa estate, was today charged with threatening to kill and disorderly conduct.
He denied the charges and was released on a 500,000 shillings cash bail with an alternative bond of 1 million shillings. He is accused of threatening to shoot and kill the security guard at Viewclear Place in Kileleshwa over parking spot row. His firearm has since been confiscated.
Obiya is, however, not new to controversy, and it was not his first brush with the law. The case will be mentioned on the 4th of April.
And copies of the witnesses' statements. Judge is threatening to kill. Particulars are on the 16th day of March 2019 at Full Clear Place along Sierra Road in Kileleshwa area.
All right, time for a quick breather once again, but coming up.
Yes, we'll have business news with Julian Samboko, but also something you can look forward to. There are over 140 allowances paid out in public service. Details on the business news next.
Boko. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has zeroed in on more than 140 allowances given to state officers as the next major target as it strives to tame the country's public sector wage bill. The commission has also put county governments on notice, warning that its advice on remuneration of state officers has legal backing, hence should be treated as the law. Alex Mwangi reports on what the new team at the SRC has in store for Kenyans.
The Salaries and Remuneration Commission puts the number of state officers at 700,000, drawing a salary of 733 billion shillings per annum. That amount is equivalent to 53% of tax revenue, way above the prudent limit of 35%.
There was a study done some years back that we have more than 140-something allowances. That's a huge number. It's actually one of the biggest contributors of the wage bill. So as a commission, as we come in, that's one of the areas that we will be addressing, harmonization of those allowances.
Kenya has for many years been identified as the region's economic giant, but as the world becomes more and more competitive, her neighbors are keen at chipping away at that perception.
So as a country, we don't watch our labor cost. Indeed, we will lose out in terms of competitiveness with the neighboring countries. We know, for example, that Ethiopia has managed to attract a lot of the business parks in their area. And one of the reasons is actually to do with the labor cost.
Debate on productivity, focusing on the extent to which Kenyans get value for money for their expenditure, is currently a pertinent matter. In 2017, Kenya's level of productivity stood at 8,376, compared to Ghana's 9,799, South Africa's 42,794, and Egypt's 43,132.
It's fairly apparent that even though today our MPs are amongst the best paid in the world, we are not sure that we are getting value for money, because the quality of debate and quality of legislation compared to years gone by, many are convinced it's on a downward trend.
But when you ask state officers are overpaid or state officers best paid in the world, criteria is different, because it is just not the cash you may be looking at. There are other ways by which other people get paid in other jurisdictions.
The SRC's officials spoke during a meeting with the Fourth Estate to explore modes of partnership aimed at achieving its objectives. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
And from matters wage bill, let's now talk about infrastructure. And the face of Bungoma town is set for a major upgrade as the county commences construction of a dual carriage road. The 6.5-kilometer stretch from Musikoma to Kandui cuts right through the heart of the town and has been prone to traffic gridlocks, a problem the expansion seeks to address. Zacchaeus Mosame with the details.
The 6.5-kilometer road is expected to cost the Bungoma taxpayer 1.3 billion shillings. Traders and motorists along the busy Musikoma-Kandui road say the expansion will bring relief because the existing road is too small, resulting in constant traffic gridlocks. Already, Chinese contractors have been identified and are expected to swing into action soon.
With this road coming on board, we are also in line going to implement the 2009 plan, the spatial plan that was planned for Bungoma town, which actually has taken more than a decade without any further enhancement. And finally, I just want to confirm that we have been in collaboration all along with the Kenya National Highways Authority.
Today, we have received the contractors. We have been doing inspection of the road. We have shown them where to put up the yard, where they're going to start. And we are telling the people of Bungoma that the budget and the promise of building a dual road from Kandui to Musikoma
atatoa jam ama congestion mingi katika tauni yetu ya Bungoma, kutupa barabara nyingi kutoka Musikoma kwenda Kandui. Ni swala muhimu sana ambalo litatusaidia sisi kama wana matatu.
Na hii barabara imekuwa kero kwetu sisi kwa sababu tukipita tutakuwa tunagongana, magari, baskeli, pikipiki. Ilikuwa ndogo sana. Kwa hivyo ikipanuliwa itasaidia mwenye kutembea, mwenye kuuza hata kwa kando, hata mwenye kuendesha baskeli, pikipiki na magari hazitakuwa zikisumbukana.
As part of the upgrade, pedestrian sidewalks and dedicated motorcycle lanes will be built. The road joins the Malaba-Eldoret Highway at Kandui Junction. Zakis Masame, NTV, Bungoma.
Good news there for Bungoma residents. And now let's move on to the capital markets. The March 2019 infrastructure bond failed to attract investor appetite, registering bids worth 29 billion shillings compared to the target 50 billion. The performance by the 25-year bond is as a far cry from the oversubscription, which was reported by the government in the issuances of bonds in the first 2 months of 2019, where the government received bids worth 246 billion shillings against a target 102 billion shillings. In the March 2019 issuance, the government accepted bids worth 16 billion shillings, signaling efforts to steer clear of expensive credit from the domestic market. Now, amid worsening trade relations between Uganda and Rwanda, the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, Dr. Mukisa Kitui, has called on African countries to trade more with their neighbors in order to grow their economies. Dr. Kitui says intra-African trade creates more jobs and earns more revenue for the African countries, unlike trading with more developed European, Asian, and American economies. Africa is yet to effectively address barriers to intra-African trade, despite the knowledge that doing so would result in immense benefits to its economy.
We must notice that what we sell to our neighbors has more value added than what we sell to Europeans and Chinese. Therefore, what we sell to other African consumers creates more jobs in Kenya than what we sell to Americans and Europeans. What does that mean? We must remove the tariff barriers that have been there. We must construct an infrastructure that connects our populations to other African populations, not that connects us to the sea from where we import merchandise from other people's continents.
And on that note of intra-African trade, we take a short break.
Glad to have you with us on NTV tonight still. Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says police will investigate cases of extrajudicial killings at the coast.
This comes as a family claims their 17-year-old was shot by a stray bullet as police conducted a security operation in Rabai, Kilifi County. NTV's Kevin Mutai has more.
Bakari Mohammed, from his hospital bed at the Coast General Hospital, recounts the moments when he encountered police officers on patrol in Rabai, Kilifi County.
Wale polisi wakaenda natu mpaka vile barabarani. Walipofika pale barabarani wakasimama kidogo ikaongea. Mara kidogo basi naambia kina nyinyi tushuke hapa. Basi walienda zao vile kina nyinyi washuka baki ameenda kushuka.
He claims at the time he was in the house with his uncle and grandmother and was peeping through the window to see the operation unfolding outside. That's the last thing he says he remembers after police started firing rounds in the air.
Alisikia mlio risasi, sasa mtoto alikimbia kuingia chumbani. Shona, kwenda kitandani kwenda kujila. Dakika mbili akijishika kwenye mkono anasikia kama maji hivi. Shona, anamwambia nyanyake sasa, nyanya. Risasi imeniingia mimi.
Usiasi ndo alirusha risasi, ikapiga ukuta, ikaja ikatoboa, maana nyumba yetu ni udongo. Ikatoboa ukuta alafu ndo ikaingia ikampata huyu pale alipokuwa amesimamia.
Bakari was hit by a bullet on his left rib.
Hapo ilipogonga damu hatujaambiwa. Sisi tulienda kupiga picha, tukampelekea alafu akaendelea kumfanyia.
His parents say they are yet to receive the doctor's report on whether the bullet is still lodged in his rib cage. At the same time, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who was on a tour of the coastal region and where the youth have been complaining about harassment and extrajudicial killings, said the government will investigate claims of police officers misusing firearms.
Hakuna mtu ambaye anaishi juu ya sheria. Sisi sote we have to live under the law. None of us is above the law. Hata mimi nikiwa waziri siwezi kuvunja sheria eti kwa sababu mimi ni waziri.
Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
Well, there's a case to look into. Now we get into the sports with Sean Carter-Villis after the break. Stay with us.
Evening to you. I'm Sean Carter-Villas with the latest sports news. Now, the Kenya Prisons women's volleyball team has been forced to return home by the government despite not concluding its assignment at the Africa Club Championships. The team will arrive home at 4 a.m. from Egypt in what is certainly a new low for Kenyan sports.
This year, I can proudly say that sports, culture and arts will truly take center stage in our republic.
Despite this pledge by the highest authority in the land, teams representing the country are still bearing the brunt of lack of funds. In a letter signed by the Principal Secretary, State Department of Correctional Services, Zainab Hussein, the government alleges that the Kenya Prisons women's volleyball team breached protocol to travel to Cairo, Egypt. In what is a new law for teams representing the country, Kenya Prisons women's team has been ejected from the Africa Club Championships before completing its fixtures. The state of affairs leaves many questions unanswered. Given that Kenya Prisons is made up of prison wardens who are part of the disciplined forces, how did they manage to leave the country with no authorization? Who paid for their air tickets to Egypt? Who paid for the team's registration to the championship? Also, the team manager, David Kilundo, is a senior assistant commissioner of prisons who has been in volleyball administration for decades and must be aware of the protocol required before travel. The team, which has endured numerous challenges in Egypt, winning one game and losing two, was scheduled to play a classification match. Instead, the team will now board a flight at midnight and arrive in the country at 4 a.m. Friday morning. Kenya Prisons now stares at a hefty fine and suspension from continental competitions.
Now, with 3 months to go to the Africa Cup of Nations, Harambee Stars coach Sebastien Minye is still experimenting with his squad as he tries to get the best outfit to represent Kenya in Cairo, Egypt. Minye's latest selection will face Ghana in the final group stage match on Saturday in Accra.
The national football team Harambee Stars takes on Ghana in their final Group F tie of the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers on Saturday night. Both teams already have ticket to AFCON, and a win or a draw will see Kenya finish top of the group and improve their chances of being seeded among the best in the draw for the continental showpiece.
Other players from KPL, from NSL, maybe from the street, I'm not afraid about it. It's my willingness also to prepare this team and the youth player to give him some experience.
Minye has selected Masoud Juma, who recently signed for Libyan side Al Nassr, Alan Wanga, who is currently the top scorer in the Kenyan Premier League this season, and Piston Mutamba to lead the striking. This is at the expense of Zesco United's Jesse Were, Kariobangi Sharks striker Duke Abuya, and Mathare United's Cliff Nyakea.
Of course, on paper, Jesse Were is a player whose quality is not debatable, but rather admirable, because look at what he's doing in the Champions League and as well as Continental, scoring 18 goals in 2 consecutive seasons. If he was in the KPL, he would have been the top scorer as he did in 2015.
The team also features 2 debutants, defender David Sesay of 4th-tier league side Crawley Town in England, and midfielder Christopher Mbamba of Swedish side Oskarshamns.
It was good to get to know everyone. Nice to be home, and of course I've been looking forward to coming.
Regulars Gor Mahia goalkeeper Boniface Olwach, in-form Kariobangi Sharks winger Harrison Mwendwa, as well as Sweden-based Ovela Ochieng are also missing from the squad. After the Ghana clash, Stars preparations will be boosted with a 2-week camp in France ahead of their maiden appearance in 15 years at the Continental Showpiece. Brian Otual, NTV Sport.
Here, Coach Hassan Oktay, in his first season in the country, Oktay, who's guided his team to the quarterfinals of the CAF Confederations Cup and whose charges lie second in the Kenyan Premier League, was today named the Fidelity Insurance SJAC Coach of the Month for February.
Gor Mahia have been drawn to play with Moroccan side RS Berkane in the quarter-final of the CAF Confederation Cup, and coach Hassan Oktay has lofty ambitions.
We come out group stage, for me, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. My target is not there. My target is a little bit higher.
Kogalo won all their home matches in the group stage and lost all their away matches to finish second behind Zamalek in Group D. Gor has an uphill task against Berkane, who topped Group A with 11 points, as it will be without 5 players in the first leg set for Sunday, April 7th.
I called my friends last night as soon as they told me to draw, and they're going to find out what kind of team they are, their weakness, their strength, their statistic.
Berkane has won 1 league title to date. It boasts of an annual budget of 800 million shillings, and it finished second last season in Morocco's top flight league. But it currently lies 9th on the league log after 21 matches, having won 6 games, drawn 9 and lost 9. Meanwhile, Oktay has been named the Fidelity Insurance Sports Journalists Association of Kenya SJAC coach for the month of February. Despite continental engagements, Oktay guided Gor to 4 wins and a draw from the 5 KPL matches played.
And then I came in here in Kenya. A lot of people, they was questioning this coach, what kind of coach he is.
Kogalo currently lies second on the KPL log, a point behind the leaders Sofapaka, and with 3 games in hand. With 5 players on national team duties, Gor Mahia's match against Ulinzi Stars set for Saturday has been postponed. Warote Kiru, NTV.
Kenya Rugby Union Chairman Odua Gangla may have secured a 4-year tenure, but he faces a daunting task to regain the confidence lost in the sport by sponsors and fans. Gangla has a full in-tray and he has to hit the ground running. Here's my report. With the chairman's post secured, now comes the hard part for new Kenya Rugby Union Chairman Odua Gangla, returning the glory to Kenyan rugby. Top on Gangla's to-do list is sorting out the mess that is the relationship between the union and senior players of the national men's sevens rugby team.
The most important thing in all this is both parties are committed to finding a solution. Given the challenges we've had, which are well documented, we've both moved a very long way.
Former national 15s and 7s player Paul Pablo Murunga reckons Gangla will prove to be the right man for the job.
Gangla is the strongest candidate, even better than Sasha, with regard to mobilizing support from within the board and from within the rugby fraternity. Remember, the game is wider than the 10 or 12 people that sit on the board.
Murunga says he's seen the return to work letter from the union to the senior Shujaa players, and he's confident of the standoff being resolved soon.
An offer has been made. Some players have accepted it and are already training. A section of players have given their feedback on what they want, and the union has accepted.
So there's no doubt the new board has a full in-tray. One of the big questions is what will happen to the losers in these elections? Will they have some sort of role in the running of the sport in the country? The state of the pitch at the RFUEA has been a big talking point within rugby circles. RFUEA serves as a training ground for the national teams as well as a venue for Kenya Cup matches.
Any groundsman will tell you that when it gets to this point, you've got to relay your grass. There are seeds in the ground, so when you relay it with fresh soil and roll it and level it again and water it, the grass will come through.
And Gangla will need to tackle the dire state of finances and sponsorships in the union, dismantle the rugby cartels, grow women and age-grade rugby, while also shining a spotlight on 15s rugby. All right, that's the latest sports news. Back to you, Mark and Zain.
NTV Sport in association with Nivea Dry Fresh Deodorant.
We're actually on our way out as well. Thank you, Sean Carter-Villas and the sports team for the stories from your desk. And that's it from our NTV newsroom tonight. Thank you for watching. A lot of feedback on the appeal by Red Cross, many saying that we've done it enough times already. And hey, if the deputy president says that there's no famine or drought, or at least no crisis, then why are we raising funds? That's a lot of feedback that's been coming in with the stories that we've been showing you tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Mark Masai. Good night.
And before you go, Mark, do you know what 0 said to 8?
No.
Nice belt. Well, that brings us to the end of our bulletin. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Flora Atieno. My name is Zainab Ismail. Good evening.